Welcome to the Acronym Podcast, the only B2B marketing podcast where we don't care about CPLs, MQLs, and SQLs, and instead I'm going to be sitting down with the industry's top thought leaders, business owners, and entrepreneurs to uncover how they were able to build the confidence to make the leap into entrepreneurship and ultimately break free of those golden handcuffs. I'll also be discussing my own story, scaling a multiple six-figure marketing agency in under 12 months, and hope to be able to inspire the next generation of digital marketers to make that leap into entrepreneurship. I'm your host, Chris Roach. Welcome to another episode of the Acronym Podcast. In today's episode, I'm going to be joined by Mellonie Francis, who is the CEO of RUB2B. Mellonie's had a tremendous career and has been able to leave the corporate ladder, break the golden handcuffs, and has now scaled to the point where she now owns a multiple seven-figure marketing agency. This truly is an amazing story, an amazing episode. I'll see you in there. Hey, Mel, thank you so much for coming onto the podcast. Really excited to have you on the Acronym Podcast. I had such a pleasure going on your own podcast, and I can't wait to learn more about how you managed to scale your own agency to multiple seven figures and just hear, your career growth and trajectory, because it really is it's a unique and inspirational story.
Thanks so much for having me. I'm super excited to do this with you. I had such a fun time with you also coming on my podcast. So, I'm really excited to have the seats flipped.
So let's dive into it. You have your own marketing agency, RUB2B. What is RUB2B? Can you give a little bit of context and background on that?
Sure. So RUB2B is really focused on helping founders who are disruptive, have something really innovative or thought-provoking to share, and to help them build that content out, their personal brand out on LinkedIn specifically. So my bread and butter is really working with disruptive founders to get them attention on the platform, to help them get funding, to help them get inbound leads coming in through personal branding.
Got you. Awesome. And how important is LinkedIn as the component of that? Do you work with other platforms as well, or is it primarily focused on LinkedIn?
To be honest, our major focus has always been LinkedIn, because I think we know that platform, the algorithm's constantly changing, and we didn't want to be an agency that was just a content production agency, because then you just can distribute in a multi-channel. I mean, what my agency is really focused on is actually delivering a result for you, and we are actually measuring okay, are we going to actually get 700% more impressions by working together in the first quarter? Are we actually going to get you X amount of leads, or are we going to get you X amount of capital? And I think when you're doing results, you can't then focus on content production and masses and distribution. We're actually very focused on getting that result. And that's so I think that's what makes it a bit different. So yeah, we don't go multi, we just stay on this platform, and everyone in my team is held responsible for that result every quarter to see if we can hit those KPIs.
Go ahead. That's awesome. That's like a lot with, a lot of obviously clients we work with are looking to get into more that demand generation side. And it's always, hey, let's go and nail one platform, maybe two, do it very, very well. Yes. Then we can worry about expanding, but you've got to get very, very good at doing it on one platform. For me though, I've been connected with you for a while. You have 20,000 followers on LinkedIn. You've got an enormous influence on there. You obviously produce, high quality content all the time. How important is it for your clients to see you almost setting that path and kind of being the trailblazer? I'm like, hey, this is what happens when you invest in LinkedIn. Why would you not do this?
I think it's super important, because then what happens is I actually collect the clients that like what I'm doing, right? So they're seeing what I'm doing, and then they're coming in with the expectation that's what I'm going to do for them. So expectation and the mindset and the kind of people you attract who are into your style are then automatically attracted. So what I'm doing is what I'm selling, and I always say, don't go buy from someone at something and you look at them and you go, I don't like that. If you don't like their website and they're going to do a website, it's probably not the right partner.
Yeah, I would say don't work with somebody that doesn't drink their own Kool-Aid, because in the marketing agency space, there are so many companies that are preaching demand generation, they're preaching, investing in personal branding, investing in different, marketing tactics, and then you go and look and they're running lead gen campaigns themselves. And it's like, don't go and work with somebody that doesn't invest in it for themselves, because clearly they don't believe in it if they're not investing in it, for themselves. Now with you, personal branding is a huge element. You say you work with a lot of very disruptive CEOs, but not everybody listening to this podcast is a CEO. So is personal branding just for CEOs like yourself and I, or is it for other professionals as well?
So most of my clients are all founders and CEOs, but there's this other type of client I work with. Because they're in my network or they've known me for ages, and they're actually professionals. So I have clients who are directors in big enterprises, and they are actually also VPs, and they're trying to get the CTO role, and they want to build their personal brand. And, for me, I just go in awe that someone after tax money is willing to spend that, after their tax money on their personal brand. I think they're obviously very special most of the times. They're very, they're either, even if I see them, they're like super young and they're at 28 years old going, I'm going to invest in my personal brand. Like, can you imagine what this person's going to be at 40? Because they've realized what they're doing. This, they've realized, wow, if I do this, I'm going to land X. I'm going to be able to get funding in the future. So I think personal branding is for everybody that wants huge amounts of growth, and wants to progress in their career and can see this is a tactful way to get in front of people that maybe you can't talk to. Maybe it's the CEO you can't talk to, but for founders, and CEOs and people that are running their own business, this is really the cheapest way, I think, to start to get your business into, a six to 7 figures by just using your personal brand you might not have that investment for ads yet, or you don't understand your offering yet. So, this is like your first grassroots to really using yourself to generate huge amounts of attention, leads. I think it's the perfect means. And for me, it's been the cheapest way to get a ROI on versus any other kind of channels that I've used and experimented with.
Yeah, absolutely. And I work with a lot of marketing agency owners right now, and a lot of them are looking to get to that 6 figures. They want to get to $100,000 a year. That's their goal if you go out as a freelancer. And I just tell them, there is $100,000 a year in retaining clients in your network right now. All you have to do is find them. And by investing in your personal brand, getting to 6 figures, that's really all you need to do to be able to get there. Yes, when you want to get to multiple 6 figures, when you want to get to 6-figure months, then there has to be more of a process. There's going to be more of an outreach component. But just to get to 6 figures as a marketing agency owner, I think there's a lot of misconceptions about how difficult it is. And if you can just start to invest in the personal brand in the right way, you will attract. You only need 3 clients to be able to do that. You will attract the right type of clients. And that's what I'm seeing, obviously with the marketing agencies I'm working with. The moment that they start investing in their personal brand, they're starting to attract good clients to them, because that's how I grew Catalyst. 18 months ago, nobody had heard of me. And that was how I was able to now get to the point where we're working with, top 10% of startups, Silicon Valley, Series C companies. Those are the kind of clients that are coming to us now, because we've established ourselves as one of the top, if not the top, demand generation agency in the country by constantly investing in my personal brand, and obviously the work that we do on the backside of that as well.
Absolutely. Personal brand, I think I wrote, is the future. And it's the authentic way to really grow and attract the right kind of clients. By putting your authentic self out there, you'll get people that are just like you. And it's so much more fun to work with people like you, because you're now putting yourself out there, and then you're hooking in people like you, rather than, chasing people that are just not going to be the same mindset at you. And I think that's the trick of a successful and a fulfilling business, rather than a business where you're you're pulling out your hair and you've got these little clients that are annoying you because they never actually bought into you. They don't know who you are. They just needed someone to do X. They just needed someone to do SEO. But when you put yourself out there and then you hook someone like-minded, you're actually excited every time you catch up with them.
Yeah, and it's separating yourself from being a commodity, because in any service-based industry, if you fall into a commodity category, you have to compete on price. If you're just an ads agency, if you're just a personal branding coach, you have to compete on price, because there's no additional value. But when you start to have a personality around that, and people come to you because they want to work with you, they want to work with Mel Francis, they want to work with Chris Roach, the reason that they do that is because they want to have that experience, rather than just, hey, I'm looking to work with a personal branding coach, because there's thousands of them, and there's so many to choose from, and there's going to be so many that are far less expensive than you are, but they don't do as good of a job, and you don't get that same experience. So the way to differentiate yourself, I think, from that commodity section is really to start investing in that personal brand.
Absolutely. And I think for anyone that's, starting their marketing agency, their journey, first thing is to really just get out there and ask yourself some questions like, why do you want to do this? What's your why? And answer that, and then put content out there around that, why you're so into marketing, talk about your experience in, something that you learnt every day, because you're going through a journey and you might think, oh, who the hell wants to know this? But that's how I started. I actually started by going, okay, I learned about SEO initially when I started my marketing journey, and I was like blown away. And I was like having these like experiences where I couldn't sleep at night. I was like, and no one would want to listen to me. I was like sitting there with my husband at the time, and I'd be like, oh my God, Google, this is what backlinks are. And like, I'm literally like having like freak out moments of someone that's from banking and like, learning about backlinks and the secret. And like, he doesn't care. But you can, no one's going to care around your circle like that you're having these moments. But what you can go do, there's this people in LinkedIn, this community that really care, or your network on there that all of a sudden go, oh, that's really interesting. And I think when you're having those moments to share that experience, and almost do it like a diary, like you're recording those thoughts, like you need to get it out and talk to someone. And I think that's a way to actually just get your personal brand out there, because a lot of people go, I don't know what to write about, I don't know what to do. Like it's those moments that you just want to tell someone, just say it online.
It is. It's documenting the journey. It's something that when I launched my first startup, nearly 10 years ago now, when I launched my first SaaS company, it was one of the biggest regrets I had was not documenting it more, because I kind of experimented with a personal brand there and we had a lot of success with that. And then I kind of stopped, and I was in a situation where actually with the previous company that I worked with, I was getting a little bit of pressure from the CEO because I was becoming the face of the company because of how much I was investing in my personal brand. And that was seen as a negative. And I remember having the conversation. I'm like, it's all positive. We're bringing people in. It's like, yeah, but you're getting a bit big for your britches here. Like it's almost becoming a negative for you now. And I know you had a similar experience, or have a similar experience to kind of share, where maybe you didn't attract the right kind of attention because of your own personal brand.
Yeah. So when I was at my corporate job, so I was in a 7 years corporate in a bank called ANZ Bank, and it was one of the top 4 banks here in Australia. It was an Australia and New Zealand bank. And so what was going on over in the department I was in, the general manager had said to some of the more higher directors in the company, hey, I want you guys to start posting on LinkedIn. We're going to provide you training on this, and you need to post regularly. This is her strategy, actually, to move the business forward. And I was observing this happening, and my director would come to me and be like, can you help me post this thing on LinkedIn? And like technically, if they're not really on the ball, so they come to more of the younger people and be like, I need to do this. It's like they were literally being checked if they were posting once a week by this general manager. It was bizarre. And I thought, I want to become like, a general manager one day. So I'm going to start posting as well. Like it's so super easy. So I just like posted an article, and I think I said something about, supermarkets should not be continued to lend to by banks because I think it's overcrowded. And I put my thoughts out there on this space. And I had someone call me on my phone. I think it was someone like pretty much that reported up to the CEO. And I couldn't believe when I saw the number come up, and I picked up, and they said, we really need you to take that post down from LinkedIn.
Oh, wow.
Because you've upset the CEO of a brand called Metcash, and you shouldn't be. It's one of our biggest, largest enterprise clients that the bank holds. This is a huge bank that makes billions. So and I was like, kind of like, no, I'm not going to take it down. It's my own thought, but at the end, I kind of did it. But I realized then the power that one post made. This manager somewhere in this 40,000 bank has posted, an impact that I've had is so big. And I never posted again because, I was shunned away from posting. I felt like, God knows what I'm allowed to do, not allowed to do. But I think that moment stuck with me later that, like I could potentially use this platform because I imagine the impact I have, and so I'd never touched it for 8-9 months, and at that moment I already knew that I'm not going to be staying in any kind of corporate job or any kind of place which tells me what to do.
Yeah.
That I think is impactful, like imagine like maybe they could have said, that's amazing, like that you've been able to get their attention. And that's actually going to give us a platform to now talk to these and go, what provoked you in that? Like, and that could have actually opened up opportunities to have really honest discussions with that client about, because what I was stating was something that was being said potentially internally, right? And it could have been a great conversation. So it's kind of like that kind of also like, triggered me to go, is this really the job that I want to be in? Like where I'm actually told to shut up and, not let my thoughts out.
So you're in that situation. You're obviously, like you kind of mentioned and alluded to, you didn't want to be there anymore. What happened next? You said was it 8-9 months, and then you decided you're going to start your own agency? Did you go and work for someone else? Like what happened?
Yeah. So look, I was quietly in the background while doing my corporate job, having these huge feelings of, wanting to do my own thing, wanting autonomy. And I think that's something all founders experience is I think they want freedom and autonomy to do whatever they want and I think that's what is that mindset that we call, entrepreneurship. So, I was having these thoughts, and these moments like this would aggravate the situation further to say, I've got to do something. So what I started doing was I started like sort of building a SaaS sort of platform in the background, planning my exit from the bank, which was nothing to do with marketing, to be honest, at the time. It was a SaaS platform that helped you find beauticians locally nearby. So my plan was that, this thing will take off and I'll go berserk and I will quit my job. So I would come home after, work at 6 p.m., have dinner for an hour, and then I would work from 7 p.m. till about 2 a.m. every day. So another 8 hours to do this product development thing. And I did that for about, I don't know, a year, and cost my relationship a lot because, you don't get any personal time with your partner anymore. But in that time, I realized that I need to hire a marketing agency after I've done all the product development. And I give it to this marketing company thinking, that I think this will be the thing that will, take me off. And I start putting all my corporate salary into this marketing agency. And 3 months later, it doesn't do what I'm expecting it to do. I'm like one of those early stage founders. I'm the annoying customer that you don't want because I want everything now as well. But then I start learning marketing because I have no choice. Like I have to learn it. So that's how I start learning it. But in the background, I realize I've picked up this skill, software development that other people seek. And I start consulting and using that team that had helped me build the product. I start selling that team to people. And that's how I get out. So that team I'd built to do this 8 hours every night, I end up selling it to one of my, colleagues or friends I meet through the startup economy. So I had like 3 people, and I just kind of say, you can use my team. So I become this software agency kind of thing.
Yeah.
But while that happens, that's my exit now, my plan to move out. And I keep learning marketing while this software thing keeps going on, because I'm really passionate about this product, and I'm really passionate this product's going to take off, but this other thing can help me sort of exit. So I learn more and more. I get so deep into it. I'm now sort of been posting on LinkedIn a fair bit, gone viral a few times, sharing myself leaving corporate went viral because I went to Pakistan. Flew over there because I had my dev team over there. That went viral because people were like, oh my God, a female. So, I'm kind of figuring out, hang on a minute, this LinkedIn thing, if I keep sharing what I'm doing, is kind of taking off. And I don't know what the hell I'm doing. I'm just posting what I'm at the airport and I'm doing a recording and posting it, and people are going, So, and that's bringing in good stuff for this software business. And then, so marketing, I get sick of software because I don't have any technical experience. I can't
And
really support the software
it's
people.
really boring.
Oh, and it's really
I
competitive as
ran
well.
an agency for 4 years. It's so boring. It's
Well,
compared to marketing, software development. It's I shouldn't say it's boring. Boring isn't maybe the right word, but compared to the impact you can have with marketing and the results you can get, and it doesn't take 12 months to launch a product, and then
oh,
you go from that to marketing, and it's like suddenly it's like you've got this weight off your back. It's like, oh, we can really make an impact now. That was my experience
yeah.
anyway.
Yeah. And my personality and the way I am, people would just be like, why are you not doing marketing? Like, you're
Yeah,
like on LinkedIn promoting
yeah,
software. And it was just, it was like almost a head fuck, in my mind.
uh-huh.
So I all of a sudden, COVID almost hits, and I meet up with one of my banking clients, and I start talking to them, and I say, look, this is my first marketing client ever.
Yeah,
I sit with them, and I'd been studying SEO for about 4 months now, blowing my mind with. I sit with them, and they're this little childcare operator that I used to bank, and I say, you really need to do SEO, and blah blah blah, and they're like, okay. They want to do it. They love me. They've had me. They trust me. So it's usually your network that will buy from you
absolutely.
first. It's probably someone you know in your network. And I remember quoting it up, my first marketing deal ever.
Mm-hmm.
And it was, I think I was so scared. I think I put together 1,150 AUD. So about 750 USD per month I'm going to charge them.
Yeah,
And I was like, wow. And I'm going to do so much for them, right? I had like all
yeah,
these high hopes. So I send this contract out to them, and it's like for, minimum 3-4 months. I kind of know how it works because I'd used that other marketing agency before. And I'm going to do the deal. And they come back and, they're like, yep, they're going to do the deal. Like they're going to do
mm-hmm.
this. It's my first client. I sign up on my marketing, and I remember I reckon I hired someone to just work with me as soon as they signed to help
Mm-hmm.
me to do to do stuff, because I was like, oh, I think that will be really kind of smart way to operate, so that's just not me doing it by myself, and I have someone for like, I don't know, I reckon I hired someone for like 500, 600
Yeah,
per month from an off, like from Pakistan at the time, because I was visiting there, and very
mm-hmm.
talented man, very, very talented man. And he's actually moved on to work for a huge company now in Canada. We moved him from Pakistan to Canada. He's on big dollars now, but
Yeah.
that's how my little marketing agency. He was super good at English. I taught him everything from scratch. So that's all I had for like the first sort of 3 months is this client, and I just wanted to do a really good job for
Yeah.
this particular client and after you do one, and then you kept putting out content, so your next one you get a bit more confident,
Yeah.
and you
And you just
raise your
build it.
prices, and you
Yeah,
just
and
build it.
you build from there. There are so many valuable lessons that you've almost skimmed over in a way that I want to go back to, because there are so many lessons that people can take out of that. Firstly, it's no small feat learning to do software development. I mean, for you to be able to run a software development team, someone that again ran a multiple 7-figure software development agency, that's no joke. So to be able to do that and learn how to do that, obviously you have that entrepreneurial spirit, and you're starting to kind of, at this point in your career, you're realizing it, you start to almost profit from it, you start to figure out what the potential avenues are. Then you go into SEO and you spend 4 months to learn SEO, and nobody's an expert in 4 months, but I imagine your 4 months of learning SEO is probably very different than most marketers' 4 months of learning SEO. So from your perspective there, one of the interesting things that I want to take away from that is a lot of marketers that come to me and say, hey, I've been in digital marketing for the last 4 years. I don't know if I'm ready to actually go and consult or freelance on the side. And I'm telling them, if you've got one company that's paying you to be a digital marketer right now as a full-time salary, there's nothing to stop you having 3 or 4. Absolutely go and freelance. You have no idea just how valuable the knowledge that you have is to somebody. It's not going to
Exactly.
necessarily be the VP of marketing at a Series C SaaS company. You may not have the
Exactly.
expertise to be able to close that kind of client, but absolutely you can go and close someone that's more local. You could go and close a local gym, a local bar, somebody that wants to invest in SEO, wants to invest in Google Ads. You have the ability to share your knowledge, and that's where so many marketers come to me who are on the fence or don't want to start investing in consulting and freelancing yet because they don't feel like they have this expertise. And the fact is, you're never going to feel ready to do it. You just have to start doing it, because then you can start to learn how to actually consult and launch an agency, because working with one client and working with 5 clients is very different. Now, like you say, the focus you put into one client, when it's one client, that's your everything. I mean, you will do anything for them, even if it is $1,000 a month. You're really working for them. Now you get to the point where you're working with clients at $5,000-$10,000 a month, and you're working maybe 2 or 3 hours a week for them, because you've built up the systems to be able to do that. But you never get to that point without starting. And just the story that you've done that highlighted so many roadblocks that I'm currently facing when I'm talking to people. I'm like, I'll just send them this episode, because this is going to solve all their problems, because this will take it and be able to answer. Listen, at some point, you've just got to be able to go and try. Now, when you did make the leap, you, first of all, you took clients on the side. You started to build up the SaaS company on the side, which is absolutely the right way to do it. Jumping into it, cold turkey is terrifying. I've done it. It's horrible. You want to start building it up on the side. At what point, and I guess, financially, when did you make that decision where you said, I can afford to take this risk? Or was it still a gamble? How secure were you before you jumped full time into your own entrepreneurship?
Yeah. So that software business, because remember I was investing heavily for a year. So I was doing that late night. So when I sold 3-person team that I had built, I think I sold it for a pretty nice price, so like around 3,000 a month profit. And that was sort of, at that point when I was getting 3,000, and I wasn't having to do a lot, remember, I'm just charging for these 3-people team, and I would do like 2 hours consulting every week. And I had my full-time job. So I decided that I would give my notice to my bank, like that I will finish up on X date. So I gave myself like 6 months, 7 months, and I had a really cool boss, at the time, who kind of knew that that's what I'm planning. And so if you don't have a cool boss like that to support you, you give your notice, but you have something in your mind, like, that at this point, this is when I'm going to leave, because it is a really big deal. And I think giving yourself that space, that this is what I'm going to do it, whether that's 3 months or 6 months, it really starts preparing you on how you save your money in that time and how you build runway, that. So when I went into it, I went in thinking, okay, I'm going to give this 12 good months, and I don't know if I'll come back to banking. I don't know if I'll come back to this, but I know that I think that's what you've got to kind of also maybe lay out in your brain to jump, because it is scary to, I was on a very highly paid salary at the bank. I was just not like, by the time I left, I was in a very highly paid role. I was leaving something that would be very hard to replace that security with. So what I kind of told myself was, look, let me go into this entrepreneurship. I've already been doing it for a year on the side, but let me give this a go for 12 months now. I know I've got like, 3,000 a month that can keep sort of coming in, but you don't really know, because that person could leave, when you quit your job. Like, it's not really secure. That's the problem with, any agency that you do. Like, your client's going to stick to you as long as you do a good job. So, you're really, they can give you your notice. Your notice could be 30 days. Your notice could be 90 days, but they can give you that. So
absolutely.
Yeah. So I gave myself 6 months of really, in my mind, imagining it, making sure I've got everything set up. And that's what I recommend, is you set yourself that goal and then just say it and do it.
Yeah, it's because during the 6 months, there are going to be times where you want to quit, and there will be times where you think it's all going amazing. That roller coaster isn't. There's a reason they call it a roller coaster of entrepreneurship. It's not a joke. It's not made up. It is 100% true. So if you give yourself that time frame, when I was doing, what I said was, right, my expenses can all be covered at about $3,000 to $3,500 a month. At $3,500 a month, I have no worries in the world. I'm not living a great life, but I'm not losing any money every month. So I had one client that I got very, very quickly. And then 14 days later, we had 2 clients, and we were charging $3,500 a month per client. So I'm double my expenses at this point. So I'm sitting here thinking, right, this becomes very, very scalable and profitable now. How big do I want to get it? And that's kind of, for me, it was when I made that jump and realized, actually, 1 client, yes, it's no guarantee. 2 clients feels a lot better. What if it was 6 clients? What if it was 10 clients? How can I start to build that up? And suddenly the math you start to do the numbers in your head, and it's like, you're leaving a 6-figure salary and you've replaced it in 90 days. And it's like, what was I thinking? But you have to give yourself the 6 months to really try. And at the end of that,
Correct.
and the one thing I will say, at the end of 6 months, if you don't get any clients, go and find a job. You need to do that. Don't live this pipeline dream of being an entrepreneur. Too many people do it almost to a fault. There is the negative side of that. There are people that are going to fail with this, but if you do fail, I failed in my past businesses, you go get a job and then you try again in 6 months and you try again, because every time you try, it gets incrementally easier and you learn lessons. So it's this constant attrition of being able to build an agency, because that's one of the biggest questions that I get asked is, listen, you came out of nowhere, you launched a multiple six-figure marketing agency virtually in 6 months. How did you do that? I just got off the back of growing a 7-figure software development agency. I knew how to do this. There was nothing new to me in terms of running and growing an agency. So I was basically just taking one agency, started my own, implemented the exact same processes and scaled it from day one. Not everybody has that benefit. And that's where, again, you don't get to that point unless you learn how to do that by failing a couple of times.
Exactly. I mean, like I said, I started a SaaS company and then, I didn't know how to scale that because I didn't have marketing knowledge. And then COVID ended up hitting and, I didn't know how to raise funding. Like, I don't think when you have successful businesses, it's not your first rodeo.
No.
It's the reality is that person's been around and they have failed before. And that's everyone that I have spoken to. Like, they have grown so much from those failures that by the time they, imagine me, I've done SEO, I've done Google ads, I've done everything, and I landed on a LinkedIn agency.
We're going to take a quick moment to pause this episode and thank our sponsors. Firstly, we've got the first sponsor, which is True Classic, the clothing company. As you all know from all of my content, I've been wearing True Classic for the last 18 months, and it truly is the staple of my wardrobe. What I find is that a lot of the clothes that I buy previously were all too baggy. They didn't fit right. The best part about True Classic, not only is it incredibly soft, but for those of you that have broader shoulders, that have larger arms, who just tend to be a little bit more athletic, the fit is absolutely amazing. It makes you look great. And a lot of people call these really the push-up bras for guys. I can tell you, when you wear these t-shirts, you look good. If you're interested in trying True Classic, there's going to be a link in the description of this episode. There's going to be my personal link, or you can go to trueclassics.com/thechrisroach. Go ahead, check out the store. I guarantee you will not be sorry if you start wearing True Classics. If you do end up purchasing them, please let me know what you purchased. I'm curious to hear feedback. Moving on to our second sponsor, which is the Independent Marketer, which is an online course and community that I've created to be able to teach digital marketers how to go out and break out of the golden handcuffs and ultimately launch either their own freelancing career or build it into their own digital marketing agency. In the description is going to be a link to that course. And as a thank you for listening to this podcast, there's going to be a special $100 discount on that course as well. If you do have any questions on that, please feel free to reach out to me directly or shoot me a message on LinkedIn. Back to the episode. So you're at the point of your career where you've started the SEO agency. At what point did you get into more of this LinkedIn kind of are you B2B? How long? Two and a bit years that's been running for right now?
Yeah. So what happened was, while I was doing all this SEO or whatever I'm doing, like tell me I'll do it in marketing, which was like, SEO, Google ads.
I'll figure it out.
I am kind of I am kind of, and I went really deep, into figuring that stuff out. Like, I would study for hours, like 8 hours every night, just watching every YouTube video, trying it. So it wasn't like, like what you said, it wasn't, I reckon I probably knew what 4 years of marketing knew in that 4 months. Like, I was obsessed, every growth hack or every person I was just like obsessed in, and I would come back to it and fail. So I am doing all this stuff on LinkedIn, but to generate my leads, because I realize I'm kind of like constantly, every time I post, I'm taking off. So I'm getting leads from there. So people started approaching me going, can you help me with that stuff? And I don't have a product, because there is no agency that does LinkedIn at this sort of time. It wasn't a real thing, to be honest. Yeah. So the first person that came to me was a disruptive CEO that actually comes to me and says, hey, can you help me with, I'm doing a fundraising. Can you help me position me and do some consulting or something? So that's the first piece of work I do. That's kind of like, okay, I can sit here and charge anything I want. I actually ended up charging $5,000 a month, guys. So this is the first time I move after almost 12 months at that 700, 1,000. I decide to move my offering. Yeah. So I move after sort of 12 months. So that 700 to 1,000, to 1,500 to 3,000 all starts incrementally getting confident. And then the first time that people ask me for LinkedIn consulting, which I know is going to take up my time because I don't really have a system product. I'm just doing this kind of on the miss. So I put it for 5,000, I remember, and it gets taken up, and because it's going to help this person raise, substantial funding. And that's the first time this product is really born. And it wasn't until sort of, I do that and I get approached a few more times along that journey until I actually productize the product. And I sell after about 6 months after that experience. I look back and go, people want this from me because they're approaching me, but I'm selling the wrong thing. And this is how business works and journey works. You really need to be listening to that client, and whoever can react to it the fastest and understand. But, just because this one person had asked me, it didn't give me enough confidence that there's a product, because it's just one person randomly. So sometimes it takes time to actually look at that repeatness of what's going on to really learn, okay, I need to productize this. This is my product. This is my thing. And, I had coaches and friends that I would talk to, and they started making me realize as well, like, that's your thing. That's the thing you're doing really well. Like, you're killing it over there. So I productize it over 6 months and, push into a $5,000 a month product. That if you want to work with my brand, that's how much you have to pay, and we'll do, content for you, and we'll do for you. So that's what ends up, that's the journey that ends up creating my, LinkedIn agency. And since then, it's just been, it's been a huge amount of growth. But that 5,000 mark, I want to be like really transparent and clear. When you are pushing into such, $5,000 or $10,000, and I was pushing into that kind of end with LinkedIn ads would be my upsell service. So once I'm in with the CEO, I can go and upsell whatever I really want, because now I'm in with the decision maker, right? So, but I really love personal branding. So what happens now is when you're in that really high 5, 10, and this is what you have to be really careful of as a person, that one client leaving can be really costly for your business. So, and you really feel it, and it's not because you might not do a good job. They might not close a funding round. They might have because I'm going for disruptive people, their SaaS product might not actually come through and be adopted by the market like they're thinking, and they're going to cut not their internal marketing team. So all those experiences made me also realize that having a product that is sometimes too high in the market also can have that pain, and there's this huge expectation as well when you sell at that. So I actually started going back to the market, going, okay, I want to have a standard sort of a 3.5 kind of feeler of a product that's easy to take in for someone. So I kind of went back on going, I want to be this really expensive thing, to actually having a sort of, I'd say minimum in, so that you can actually, it doesn't hurt as much if you've got sort of a minimum, 2.5, 3.5. Like, you can get a lot of small businesses in at that price per month is what I'm talking about. So if you are looking at starting your agency, just beware, like, where do you want to play? It's really hard to close at that 5, 10 per month in business. When you're, going for it, you've really got to be engaged. You've got to give a lot more, and they're expecting a result for you. So, if you're coming in early, as soon as you go into 10,000 per month or 15,000 per month, they are looking for a ROI in X time. It's just their mindset. It's a lot of for any company, So if you want to, if it's early on, my advice is try and I think some people come in and they try and charge almost too much rather than, try and get the experience under the belt, get stickiness, get your clients sticky, which is stickiness can happen at that lower level. And then you can push some of them up who can afford it up that price, and they'll stay with you for longer. But my experience was when I went in, and I could win business, by the way, with my brand at 10, 15. And it wasn't that I can't win it every month, but I saw the amount of consulting and the results, and what you need to do, you really need to do a lot more work. And sometimes it's actually easier to do,
Yeah.
the 3.5 per month work that keeps spinning around.
Yeah, no, I think that's great advice, and especially, I mean, you start a marketing agency, it's very difficult to go and charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month right out of the gate. Unless you're coming from an established company, you have a personal brand that you've been building up over the years, and people are knocking down your door as you work full time somewhere else to basically come and work with you. Unless you're in that situation, coming out of the gate with no personal brand, with no company, with no case studies, no testimonials, no track record, basically, and saying, "Hey, I'm gonna charge $5,000 to $10,000 a month." That's a tough sell. Whereas, again, sticking at $2,500, $3,500 a month, you can get a couple of easy wins. And what I found as I've grown Catalyst is the more clients that we have, the more referrals that we get. So if we're able to bring on, instead of working with one client paying us $20,000 a month, we work with 6 clients where we make $20,000 a month. It's actually, like you say, it's not always that much more work, but then you have 6 clients to give you referrals, and you're able to, constantly expand your network, and you're able to have much more case studies. So it, again, kind of figuring out the best option for you. And I love the tiered approach that you have of get somebody in, get somebody working with you, get somebody understanding what it's like to work with Mel Francis, with your brand. Like, get to that stage, because then you can start to upsell and you can start to offer additional services, because that's how you make more and more profit once you get into those upsells, because you don't have to go and acquire a customer. You've already got them. You're just expanding the really the LTV of that client, and that's a very good lesson to learn, especially if you're in the game of agency for a long time. In the first 3 months, you don't really have the opportunity to do that. If you're looking at this as a long-term investment, that's really a great takeaway to be able to increase your revenue, year over year.
Exactly.
So I know we're coming a little bit kind of close to time right now. There are 2 questions that, I'd love to kind of ask you kind of before we do run out. So, first and foremost, as someone who is, had tremendous success, you've launched a 7-figure agency in the last 2 years. I mean, just your career growth and trajectory is, like I said at the beginning, it truly is unique and just an amazing story. What advice would you give to someone who is either just been laid off, looking at starting their own agency, maybe he's on the fence, suffering a little bit from imposter syndrome? What advice would you give to someone that's in that position?
So if you have been like sort of laid off and you're, in a blank state, power to you right now. This is a super exciting time for you to be able to redefine yourself and redefine what you want. So I know, don't look at the negative. Look at this as, wow, this is an exciting moment where I can choose, like my clients said, I can choose my own life. I choose life. Mm-hmm. So, now I think, strategize. If you want to do an agency, you've got to find, your first client, and it's already in your network. It's in your LinkedIn already. Mm-hmm. So all you need to do is just plan some coffee meetups locally. That's all I did. Just meet some coffee meetups and just share with them, I'm looking to do some work and help some businesses out, and this is what I've done in the past. And I promise you, like, whether you do coffee meetups online or whether you do it face to face, as soon as you let them know, like, hey, this is what I'm doing and I'm thinking about doing some consulting, it will happen for you. Like, mm-hmm. It is bound to. Like, everyone needs marketing. Everyone wants to grow. Everyone wants to grow online. Online's the future. So, the skill you've got is incredible. So it's the power is in your court now, is to just go and meet people and let them know that you're available to help them potentially grow online and take footprint online. There's so many businesses that would be excited that may already know you. It could be your sister's, boyfriend's company. It could be your mother's friend, that runs something that you're not even aware of. So, letting people in your network know will bring in opportunities. And, from my experience, go on LinkedIn, have a look at everyone you're connected to, shoot them a message, mm-hmm. And let them know, and do an announcement on LinkedIn like, hey, I've just been laid off and this is my skill and this is what I love doing and this is why. Like, and you'll see something really amazing happening.
Yeah, that's tremendous advice. And actually, when you were saying that, it made me think, because I've actually forgotten this, but one of my first clients was actually my father-in-law's company, and it wasn't. He doesn't own the company. I'd actually pitched them over dinner one night. I'd pitched my father-in-law, who then actually said, "Actually, this is really interesting. I'm going to get you a meeting with the CEO of the company. See what just see if it's a good fit for you." I drove to Milwaukee. I pitched the CEO. They were actually one of my first ever clients, and I completely forgot about that. We ended up doing a project with them, and we ended up not moving forward with them. It ended up not being a great fit for us, but at the time I was like, what a bizarre way to find a client. Just sat over dinner one night and I was like, hey, have you ever thought about Facebook ads? And I remember my wife knocking me under the table saying, no, not now. Don't do it. And I was like, hey, have you ever thought about Facebook ads? Like, I really think it would help your business. And then again, that was how we kind of closed one of the first clients. But when you're starting off, you've got to do that. You've got to be a bit scrappy with it. And, I always say, pick up the phone,
Exactly.
call people, call old bosses, call, friends from college, call, old mentors, old colleagues. Somebody right now is looking for your service. They just don't know it. And what I found is that even though I have a marketing agency, everybody that I think knows I have a marketing agency, I'll be talking to someone. They're like, oh, I never even thought of you. I completely forgot about that. And if you're not checking in often, people don't realize that, that's what you do. People forget. And that's where being active on LinkedIn, you stay relevant with people so that the moment someone says, hey, I got a friend that's a Series A SaaS founder that's looking to get into demand generation, I'll connect you with Chris. I know exactly what to do from here. So when you start to stay relevant and post regularly, you stay top of mind with people. And that's where LinkedIn can be so impactful once you do make that announcement. Last question, for anyone that, hopefully everybody's enjoyed this, this interview, this episode, but for anyone that's looking at getting in contact with you or being able to follow you, learn more about your story, where can they do so?
Obviously LinkedIn, because that's where I live and breathe every day. So you can look me up on LinkedIn, Mellonie Francis, and, just hit me up, send me a connection request, and please put in a message that, you have listened to this podcast so that I actually accept the connection, because I just get so many connections. So most people will just hit that follow button and continue to follow. But, if you want to connect and DM and exchange, just make sure you drop that, you listen to our podcast together, and I'll definitely pick up the conversation from there.
Awesome. Appreciate it. And I'll put links in all the descriptions as well, so anybody can click onto those. But it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the podcast. I've really, really enjoyed our conversation and look forward to, hopefully having you back on in a couple of months.
Absolutely. Pleasure is mine. And we'll speak soon. Take care.
And that concludes this episode. If you have any questions, please head into the comments where you'll find all of the available links. If you have any questions on our sponsors, all the links will be in the description. Please stay tuned for the next episode.